you said you're studying neuroscience, but you also have a master's in linguistics. So the question would be, why did you
Yeah,
transition from linguistics to neuroscience?
fair enough. Well, first of all, things are not always what they seem on the surface. So I actually used my master's in linguistics to transition into a field of psychology and neuroscience. Um, kind of, I used this year to learn stats because we weren't taught statistics. There was zero focus on statistics during my linguistics degree, which kind of explainable, but it's not helpful. Learn different research methods, fMRI methods, like things that would be useful for neuroscience field. The reason why is um, I kind of got a little disappointed in research methods in linguistics because my original idea was to do research, like continue to grad school in linguistics, PhD, the whole academic track. And the more I was reading about it, the more I was like, well, we study in languages we do not necessarily know, like on a native level, and we are not using any quantitative methods to study them. Like it's getting better now, but there is very little use of quantitative methods in linguistics, in linguistic research. So I wasn't very happy with that. Um, Plus, my interest changed because I don't know how it works. I think it works in the same way in Europe. You apply into grad school basically a year before you're going to go to grad school, right? And
Mm.
a lot of things can happen during this year. Like in my case, I was focusing on a research project that was kind of bridging linguistics and psychology. I studied perceptual learning of distorted speech. And distorted speech is, in my case, it was noise vocoded speech. It's a speech transduced via cochlear implants for people with hearing loss because they don't hear sounds clearly. It's still kind of this metallic vocoded sounds. So I studied perceptual learning of that because you can adjust your hearing, adjust perception to understand this kind of distorted speech better. And I got really excited about it because I saw many correspondences, many parallels between perception of distorted speech and perception of foreign languages and even perceptual learning of foreign languages essentially because it's foreign languages almost like a distorted input. For example, say we take similar languages like Spanish and Catalan. In a way, Catalan may sound like a distorted Spanish. I mean, there's differences in grammar, but there is vocabulary similar enough to perceive it as such. Like if you're a native speaker of Spanish, you can still understand Italian and you can still understand Catalan at a certain level. It just, you have to be flexible enough in your perception to kind of adapt to these differences, right? Same Portuguese, like it's all goes the same, right?
Mm.
Same with distorted speech. So I got really drawn to that topic. And then during my master's in linguistics, I kind of studied again distorted speech, but I studied how attention and prior knowledge affect perception and misperception of distorted speech. So I was moving into attention field, and now for my master's in neuroscience, I'm studying basically attention during listening. I'm trying to decode from electrical brain signals, whether at any given moment the person is actively attending or mind wandering or being distracted. So it was a very interesting journey from like, oh, I'm excited about language learning, and I'm excited about how our brain perceives languages, speech, and then how attention and prior knowledge interact with that, and how attention is used during listening. So it's all interconnected, but it's yeah, maybe not a very traditional journey for sure.
Yeah. And how has the linguistics degree, apart from helping you acquire all of this knowledge and eventually ending up in a master's in neuroscience, how has it helped you professionally, and how do you think it can help others professionally? I think you have worked as a linguistic consultant, right? So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that and about the previous question I just asked, like more broadly.
Right. So linguistics degree, I mean, it really offers, like, it depends on what you make of it, right? You can study it and do nothing with it and go to a completely different field, or the obvious way, you can stay in academia. Another way, you can do natural language processing related jobs, which is what I'm doing as a consultant. And you can go the third route, which is essentially any job or profession that requires a use of foreign languages or a knowledge of foreign languages, right? Which is any field, essentially, if you have other flexible skills that could be used in a given field. So in my case, um, I don't want to say lucky, but in a way lucky as well, because there was a very good opportunity. I found this consulting job for a company that developed essentially an NLP-based technology that assesses cognitive health by analyzing language biomarkers from speech, right? So so they use it to track and monitor cognitive disease like Alzheimer, dementia, frontal temporal dementia, things like that, up to depression, really. And the thing is, once you've got the cognitive disease, your speech patterns change. And so the company analyzes speech patterns, looking for things like reduced informational content, incoherence, repetitions, uh, increased use of pronouns and like this, that, instead of specific words, specific terms, changes to the rate and rhythm of speech, things like that, to see how the diseases progresses. So, and I'm on the linguistic consultant team, so we're essentially trying to validate the NLP tools, specifically for languages other than English. Like we worked on Spanish, we worked on French, German, Danish, Polish. So there were many languages coming in, and there are unique challenges for each language. So the degree in linguistics really helps to understand what's happening in that.
What exactly did you do with NLP? Because now I'm taking a subject, an NLP subject in my degree, my master's degree, which is in data science and business analytics. And what we're doing is essentially we're using natural language processing libraries in Python in order to gain insights from text, basically, and to understand. We're trying to understand how to analyze text. So what exactly did you do when you say NLP? What exactly did you do in your work? Did you spend most of your time programming on Python, or was it other types of tasks?
No, it's mostly other types of tasks. So what we mean by NLP, so we use large language models for text annotation. So, coding like parts of speech, dependencies relationship between words in a text in a sentence, lemma tokenization, things like that. And then, so this is useful for analyzing the context, the coherence, overall structure of speech patterns. What we're doing is basically using the labels, annotating sentences using the same labels as, say, spacey, and then comparing our human linguist annotations to machine-based annotations. Because, okay, so this NLP tools that may be doing excellent job with, perfectly coherent sentences like the written text, right? But when it comes to speech, I mean, if we just get the transcript of this particular conversation, there's so many dropped phrases, so many dropped sentences. The whole grammar is like this, you know, and it's very hard to deal with this almost like broken speech patterns of real life conversation, especially if you got something going on in your brain for machine learning tools, like for NLP tools. So uh, they're having trouble with that, let's say, and it's getting even more difficult for languages other than English because, well, English is another analytic language, so all NLP tools were essentially based on that. But when we come to Russian and there are cases and there are other complexities, agreements between words, it's complicated.
Okay, but then, so if you work with large language models doing things that we are also doing in our class with Python, with Spicy, like the tokenization, part of speech tagging, probably entity recognition as well, then if you weren't really dealing with that part, what were you exactly doing? Because I think I'm struggling to understand um, your role, and the reason why I'm asking more about that is because I want to understand kind of the professional opportunities of a linguist, a person who has a master's in linguistics. I'm trying to figure out, like, does this person acquire the necessary skills to end up working with NLPs, in NLP and with large language models, or not. No, that's why I'm
I
trying to.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah.
Basically, I'm just annotating sentences
Hmm. Okay.
using the same labels, spacey, universal dependencies labels. And we're trying to create a system that works for English and other languages, like kind of universal system.
Okay. So the end goal of the company was to build a large language model that could recognize, that was good and effective at analyzing speeches rather than text, and to extrapolate that to other languages as well.
Yeah, so it's more like models are there. It's the question of validation, whether these models are doing a great job and actually analyzing the language properly.
Yeah.
So we are on that validation side. So
Okay.
we give our annotations and then we compare our annotations with annotations provided by uh, things like Spacey, and we see how well Spacey does in this environments compared to our annotations. So we kind of almost like serving as a gold standard for NLP tools.